And what that'll go hand in hand with is people watching less television, being more selective about it. And all of these things together will compound a trend that we're already seeing, which is basically the slow death of the spot advertisement, which is the world's most inefficient way of reaching customers.
The changing media landscape presents the ad industry with the threat of an increasingly fragmented audience, one which is already being lost to computer games, CD-ROM, the internet and cable TV. But this new media world, which is based on viewers having an interactive dialogue with what they watch, may also be the answer to the ad makers' problems.
A whole new array of media technologies is redefining the role of traditional advertising. What we're going to see is a total switch in traditional advertising practice. We're going to see the end of traditional advertising, where advertisers send out a message in hope of getting a response. And what we're going to see instead are consumers sending out basically bids for advertisers to come to them for their business.
Choose now if you'd like more information. Press F2 for technical specification. Press...
You need strength and beauty.
The viewer is becoming the editor. In the future, the idea of the viewer controlling the dynamic of his consumption rather than the broadcaster or the scheduler doing it becomes a very real prospect indeed.
If the viewers have the power to direct their own commercial breaks, will ad makers who've relied on more traditional methods of targeting consumers be able to adapt?
The design of interaction requires a different form of creativity than the design for storytelling. And I don't know whether advertising agencies have the creativity, let alone the courage, to transform themselves in this particular way.
Advertising agencies are definitely facing an identity crisis. At the moment, they know that something significant is on its way, but they don't quite know how it's going to affect them. In recent months, a number of high-profile agencies have dropped the word advertising from their names, replacing it with phrases such as communications consultants or communications experts. Now, the problem with that is that not many are actually doing anything different yet. A lot of it's still just talk.
Advertising agencies are desperate not to seem stranded on the hard shoulder of the information superhighway, and most of them are already dabbling in interactivity. You can now see interactive ads, albeit rudimentary ones, on some cable channels. Even the traditional ad break on broadcast TV is starting to look different. You can read 30 pages of a magazine with this coffee ad, if you're handy with the freeze frame button. CD-ROM is another medium which allows consumers to direct their own commercials. And on the internet, you don't have to be a genius to have a dialogue with a beer ad. All this interactivity poses a threat to advertising's famously touchy creatives, who may find other specialists outpacing them.
There's definitely a danger that the advertising agency could become marginalised. If you look at what's happening in the States, already a number of big advertisers are working not just with traditional advertising agencies, but with new media experts. And these people are working in electronic publishing, computer software programming, and these people can offer them an edge. Now, until agencies can offer similar services in-house, they're going to be one step behind.
Already the traditional agencies are feeling the cold wind of competition as advertisers appoint new media specialists such as Microtime, with expertise in incorporating ads in computer software.
There's certainly a lot of fear in the advertising agency side to the business. They're making a large amount of effort at this moment in time to play catch-up, which in actual sort of physical terms amounts to a lot of talk and not a great deal of action. Interactive media is undoubtedly one of the fundamental inventions of the 20th century. The opportunity for people in their homes to control what they see on screen and instruct what they see on screen is certainly as fundamental as the invention of the printing press. The problem is, however, that there are very few examples of individuals or companies who actually, at this moment in time, know how to use it.
One of the biggest problems that we face is giving into all of this hype that's around. I think the advertising industry in general is behaving like it normally behaves when it's got new buzzwords and a new vocabulary, setting up interactive units and specialist centres. My message would be, beware the niche interactive boutique. I think that the consumer dictates the speed of the change. If the consumer doesn't want it, the consumer won't buy it and it won't go anywhere.
Nobody yet knows how successful interactive ads will prove with consumers, so agencies like Ogilvy and Mather are researching the market.
In our research, we found that actually there is quite a lot of scepticism amongst consumers. There's quite a lot of fear. They want to be passive viewers to a certain extent. So from our point of view, I mean, we have to be very careful that we don't push them too far down an interactive route.
There's this myth that we're making this tremendous demand upon the consumer who's used to being passive to becoming interactive. What a tremendous misunderstanding. The fact is, consumers want to be interactive. What they want is the opportunity to participate in dialogues, not just listen to endless commercial soliloquies by advertisers saying, this gets things whiter, this tastes better, etc., etc.
Certainly some advertising agencies are skeptical about how quickly viewers will move from passive viewing to being involved to active viewing. In Canada, we did some very simple early interactive advertising tests, offering people a chance to look at different versions of ads within the same ad break. What we discovered is that people did take that offer up. They thought they were being talked to rather than talked at. So I don't think there's any doubt that people will use interactive adverts more than they use conventional advertising.
There's much about this new technology which looks like advertising heaven, but very quickly it could descend into advertising hell. You know, the corner peeled back for the telephone number, the competition running, the programming brought to you by. Suddenly you could get so much going on the screen that, you know, pushing the viewer into too much interaction, too much action, that eventually they're going to turn off and opt out rather than turn on and opt in.
If that does happen, advertisers will have to resort to far cruder methods to reach an increasingly fragmented audience. Could the Olympics of the future look like this?
Welcome to the Light Beer 30th Olympiad, brought to you by IMF, ZYNY, ACR, Magbox, and Diaz. It's the Red Arrow 100 meters final. When you've got to get through fast, use Red Arrow. In Lane 1, USA, brought to you by Bernie's Burger Shack. Bite into a Bernie's today. Lane 2, France, courtesy of Persia.
One of the things that's certainly going to happen is that as the spot advertising declines and people are less willing to pay so much money for it, that actually revenues for ITV and Channel 4, the conventional revenues, will fall as well. And so they have a problem too. They've got to find ways of funding themselves through commercial means, which involve using other techniques. And I think one of the things that will happen is that they will be vulnerable too to advertisers wanting to have more participation in programs as part of the commercial deals they have with those channels.
This testing moment is brought to you by Frisch Underarm Deodorant. And now they cross the fjord finish line with France in front for Persia.
Sponsorship does not mean brands tagging their names onto a program. Sponsorship means a product or service embracing all the values that a program can bring. And I think it communicates a different message to the consumer than straight spot advertising can do. And it can speak to a wider audience than straight spot advertising can do. It is developing, we're learning much more about it, and I have no doubt that it will form a significant part of advertising budgets in the future.
In the future, if you could imagine a scenario where everything was sponsored and every single program had an integrated brand message, the level of irritation could be quite extreme. And we could see a return to the era of 1950s American television where the soap operas really were the property of the soap companies. And my own view is that the consumer will reject involvement to that degree.
As consumers grow ever more sophisticated and selective, the advertising business is being forced to run ever faster to keep pace with them. If it doesn't keep up, in the future, commercials could become a thing of the past.
I do hear talk occasionally about the death of advertising. And if advertisers and advertising agencies do not get involved in this new technology right now, then it will pass them by and their advertising will die.
We mustn't give in to industry hype and get carried away with this revolution. We must let the consumer dictate the speed of change. They, at the end of the day, will dictate its speed and its progress.
Most advertisers just want to tell a story. Tomorrow, they're going to have to design a conversation. I don't know if they're up to it.